The strip pulsed with neon light, alive with the sound of laughter, coins clattering into machines, and music that bled from every doorway. Among the crowd, a man stood out, not because he was the richest or the loudest, but because of the way the room bent toward him. Women leaned in when he spoke. Men envied his smoothness. The casino staff knew his name, though he rarely touched a dollar of his own. James was a man who lived on charm. He whispered promises in the ears of wealthy women, let them pay his bills, and left them begging for more. Tonight, he leaned against the bar of the Mirage, his glass half full, a playful grin tugging at his lips. A brunette in diamonds clung to his arm. "James," she purred, "you never lose, do you?" James smirked. Losing is for men who don't know how to play. But as laughter rang around him, James's eyes flickered. Deep inside, something cold twisted. Among all the women who drifted through his nights, one remained unshakable, Lady Victoria Shaw. An heiress from London, she was power in high heels. Victoria carried herself like a queen surveying her kingdom. When she took James as her companion, the strip buzzed with rumors. The King of Charm and the Queen of Steel had joined forces. Victoria gave James everything: a penthouse suite above the strip, a gleaming silver Aston Martin, a wardrobe worth more than most men's yearly wages. But with every gift came a chain. At a rooftop party, Victoria placed her hand firmly on James's shoulder while introducing him. "This is James Carter," she said, her voice dripping with ownership. "My man." James smiled for the cameras, but behind his grin, his heart sank. The music never stopped. Nights blurred into mornings. Champagne glasses were always half full. James lay on silk sheets surrounded by perfume and laughter, yet when the last guest left and the city's noise faded, he would lie awake staring at the ceiling. Why does it all feel so empty? He wondered. He had everything: cars, women, money without effort, but when the lights dimmed, he felt nothing but silence gnawing at his chest. One night, stumbling drunk from a poker game, James wandered down a side street off the strip. Between two glittering casinos stood a small chapel, its wooden cross glowing faintly in the neon light. Curiosity tugged at him. He pushed open the door. Inside, rows of worn pews faced a pulpit where a lone pastor spoke passionately to a handful of people. "You can have the whole world," the man said, "but without truth, you'll still feel empty. There is no freedom in chains of gold." James froze. It was as if the words pierced straight into his chest. For days, James carried those words in his head. Food lost its taste. The laughter of women sounded hollow. Even the Aston Martin, once a symbol of pride, now felt like a gilded cage. He sat alone in his penthouse one evening, staring at the city lights. "What if I've built my life on lies?" At dinner with Victoria, James finally spoke. "I can't keep living like this," he said, pushing his untouched steak aside. Victoria's lips curved into a cold smile. "Don't be dramatic. You have everything men dream of." "I don't have peace," James replied. She leaned back, her eyes sharp. "Stay with me, James, and I'll give you $5 million tomorrow." His chest tightened, but he shook his head. "No, I'm done." Her hand froze midair. Slowly, she leaned closer. "You'll regret this." James packed a single suitcase and left. The penthouse door shut behind him with a thud that echoed in his chest. The strip whispered, "The king has fallen." He rented a small apartment downtown. No more silk sheets. No more parties. He swept floors at a shelter during the day and attended church at night. It was humble. It was hard. But for the first time in years, James breathed freely. Freedom didn't come without enemies. A black SUV appeared outside his apartment. At church, he noticed men in tailored suits watching him. One night, an envelope slid under his door. Inside was a photograph of him kneeling in prayer. Scrawled across it, "This isn't over." James's hands shook. Victoria wasn't just angry, she was hunting him. Old friends found him. "James, just one game," they pleaded. One drink. One night, at a diner, a woman he once dated slid into his booth. Her perfume filled the air as she whispered, "You don't have to throw it all away. Come back." James gripped the small cross necklace the pastor had given him. "I'm not that man anymore." Pastor Daniel invited James for coffee. "Victoria doesn't want you back for love," the pastor said gravely. "She wants control. And when the devil loses his grip, he fights hardest." James nodded slowly. "I can feel it." Her men cornered him outside the chapel one night. "She wants you back," one hissed, pressing James against the wall. "Or else." James swallowed hard, fear rising in his chest. But he whispered, "Tell her I don't belong to her anymore." Late one evening, a knock came at his door. A young woman, trembling, stood outside. "My name is Grace," she said. "I worked for Victoria. She sent me to lure you back, but I can't. I want out too." James studied her wary eyes. Trap, or ally? Against his better judgment, he let her in. Together, James and Grace navigated the strip, avoiding Victoria's reach. Grace revealed fragments of her past, how Victoria used her as bait for men, how she longed to escape. James felt his heart stir in ways that frightened him. Grace was kind, fragile, beautiful, and wounded. He couldn't let himself fall, not now. Alone in his small apartment, James stared at the mirror. Who am I without the cars, the women, the power? Tears burned his eyes. For the first time, he dropped to his knees. "God, I'm weak," he whispered. "Help me." Victoria called him herself. "You think you've won?" Her icy voice rang. "I can destroy you." James's voice trembled but stood firm. "You don't own me anymore." "No man walks away from me," she spat. One night, James returned home to find his apartment trashed. His Bible lay torn on the floor. Across the wall, spray painted in red. "Come back, or burn." James's knees buckled. Pastor Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder later and said, "Darkness fights hardest when the light is near." At church the following Sunday, James stood trembling before the congregation. "I lived for lies," he confessed. "But I've found truth. No money, no woman, no car can own me anymore." The room erupted in prayer. Tears streamed down his face. That night, Grace finally told him everything, how Victoria had trapped her, how she feared she'd never be free. James listened silently, then said, "You're free now. You don't have to go back." For the first time, Grace smiled with hope. Weeks passed. The SUV vanished. The threats stopped. Word spread that Victoria had returned to London. The Queen of the Strip had lost her prize. James walked the strip at sunset. The neon lights flickered, but for the first time, they meant nothing to him. Beside him, Grace walked quietly, her hand brushing his. He looked up at the night sky and whispered, "I'm free." James Carter, the gambler, the playboy, the king of charm, was gone. In his place stood a man who had chosen the light.